It's the Scotty Myers Show.
Hey, how's it going this week? Hopefully you are having a fantastic week so far. I'm your host, Scotty Myers, still on the road. I am in St. Louis, Missouri this time. When I talked to you last, I was in Denver, Colorado, and still have a little bit to go on this road trip. And I got to tell you, the traveling, I mentioned it last time, hasn't been that bad. It's really, really been good. The one thing that popped up as I was flying from Denver to here was waiting in the airport gate in the Denver airport. I'm waiting to get on a flight. And some guy thought it was a good idea to bust out an acoustic guitar, and like every jackass frat boy that can play a couple of chords, he decided to bust into Wonderwall. So he's sitting there singing Wonderwall. And no offense to the guy, he wasn't that good. You know, he was kind of jackass frat boy level of both playing and singing. It was kind of rough, and he got done Wonderwall, and I was like, okay, he's done. And then, as if something in him went, no, I can do a worse song. I can crank this up and make this even worse. He started to do Rob Thomas and Santana's Smooth. Yeah. And I was going to go say something to him, but A, I didn't really want to confront him. And then B, I found out later, thankfully, he worked for the airline that I was about to fly on. So I'm glad I didn't say anything to him. Would have been a very unpleasant flight then. But man, oh man, in these times of feeling weird when we're in public, don't break out the acoustic guitar. Please, just leave that for your home. Torture your friends with that, not the innocent bystanders. And when I say feeling weird everywhere, it's, when you're in airports, especially and on airplanes, but any store I've been going into, I wear a mask. I put the mask on, and I've read it. It's good for me, but it's better for other people. From everything I've read, it's more of a preventative measure in case I have something, and I don't want to get anybody else sick. So I've been wearing a mask everywhere I go, unless I'm out running. That's about the only time that I haven't worn a mask. And there's some pros and cons to wearing a mask. And it's new for us, right? This isn't really part of our culture. The first few times I put it on and I was like, man, I look like Sub-Zero or Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. So I was like, this is kind of cool. But then as I started to do it, I feel weird. Like I'll be standing out in front of a store and I'm like, oh, my mask. And I'll put it on. And I feel like if anybody looked at me, they were like, that guy's getting ready to rob that joint. He's putting a mask on. It just, and I have that feeling. I'm like, I hope the people inside don't think, and then I really, everybody's doing it, but it's just a very, very odd feeling. Also, this is just a personal thing for me with masks. I don't have a good mask face or head. Maybe I just haven't found the right one, but I have a few different ones that I've been using, and I've used some of the disposable ones. And they all do the same thing. They flap my ears out like I'm Prince Charles. Like I really look like I'm trying to catch sound waves, by turning my ears out. Like I've evolved into another type of human species where my ears are more pointed forward. I don't feel it, but whenever I catch myself in a mirror, I'm like, ooh. I got a Dumbo thing happening there. That's not a good look. That's not a good look. I'm glad I'm married right now, because the mask thing listen, I already had drawbacks when it came to trying, but especially if I had to go up to a woman and I had a mask on and the ears were flapped out like that. Yeah. Not really a good look. So those are a couple of the cons, that I've had. A couple of the pros, and there are pros to wearing a mask. It does muffle your speech. So it is a little harder to hear people sometimes, which sounds like a con. However, somebody does something stupid in front of you in a store, you can kind of say it under your breath like you normally would, but even a little louder, and they still don't hear you. So you can kind of, if you wanted to, tell somebody off without them hearing you, which is great. It's a good release. Even if you just wanted to say, oh, fuck, you can say that and nobody kind of hears you. So that really nice pro of wearing a mask anywhere. And the other one, you're covering your mouth and your nose. You can rip farts in public now and people will hear them, but they're not going to smell them. Not the same way that they used to. So it's kind of a free for all for passing gas if you're in a store or something like that. There's no more of that holding it in or trying to just squeak it out silently. I say as long as we're masked up, honestly, let them rip. And I would enjoy it on a personal level. Not the smell, but I'm not going to smell as much because I got the mask on. But if I was in a grocery store and I turned down the aisle and I just heard a massive, I'd chuckle and it would make my day. And then I would also have a story to tell. I'd be like, oh, I went down the cereal aisle and there was a guy looking at brand cereal and obviously he eats it every day because he ripped one. Absolutely ripped one. So I'm just saying there's a couple of really solid pros of wearing a mask everywhere. And I mentioned I didn't wear them when I ran. I don't think you need to. Outside seems to be a whole other ball game when it comes to how passable this disease is. And again, don't take any medical advice from me. I am the furthest thing from a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. So don't take any medical advice from me. But from everything I've read, outside seems to be safer. And on top of that, just breathing with a mask on running would be impossible. When I was running in Denver, I thought it was going to kill me. I didn't realize that high altitude would have such an impact. I knew it was a little harder, and athletes talk about it. Oh, going to Denver, yeah, playing in the altitude is hard. But running, like even just going out and running like a 5K, I would have to stop a couple times and catch my breath, just absolutely suck the wind out of me. So if you're ever heading to Denver for any type of run, figure out how to do some altitude training beforehand. I'm sure there's some things you can do to prepare yourself because it is tough. Just a heads up on that. I saw this trending on Twitter and I was like, this is an interesting topic, and it had Stan Lee trending again because a lot of people were talking, because it's such an uplifting topic, of celebrity deaths that hit you the hardest. And Stan Lee was one of them for me. The guy created the Marvel universe. And although, yes, I openly tell you I lean more DC, I bought my fair share of Marvel comics growing up as well. And a lot of those were characters that Stan Lee created. But I was sitting there thinking about, for me, the ones that have hit me the hardest. And I think if I was to pick a couple of them, it was probably Tom Petty for sure. That guy's music has always been a part of my life. And it was really funny because the day before or a couple of days before, he had played that show in LA. And I was talking to my wife and I was saying how I had debated on trying to figure out a way for us to go, like, by not to the LA show, but any show on that tour that he was doing. Part of me was like, I really want to see him live again. And I put it off going, there'll be another tour. And, so that one kind of stuck with me because it's like, it was literally that lesson of, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so that one crushed me. And any wrestler that was part of my childhood, but especially like Macho Man Randy Savage when he passed away, that one hit me really, really hard because that was a huge part of my childhood. Whoa, yeah. Like, it's still a huge part of my life now. I will bust that voice out. So that one really made me sit back and reflect and all that. So if you've had one that hit you hard, let us know. The Scotty Mars Show on Facebook and Instagram, at Scotty Mars on Twitter. On to some TV news. This could fall into geek news, but I wanted to keep it a little bit separate just because one thing that's very weird, after 31 years on the air, Cops has been canceled. With what's going on in the world now, maybe that's why they decided to pull the plug on Cops now. But that show's been on for 31 years. Insane. The last few years, it's been on the Paramount Network. But the thing that gets me about it, as I said, maybe it's because of what's going on that they pulled the plug on it. But I almost see it the other way. I think now more than ever, we want cameras recording what's happening. So maybe now is not the time to cancel Cops. Maybe we need to increase Cops as a show. Maybe it should be on daily and we just film the hell out of it. You know, to me, the timing of this, very, very suspect, you know, but it was a hell of a run. I'm willing to bet nobody cried more about this than the guys that wrote the song. You know, the Bad Boys, What You Get the Cops, which became like the Cops theme song. The royalties they were making on that's a huge cash train just gone. And it's not like they do the Bad Boys movies enough to, make up that money. So crazy there. The other TV thing that I wanted to hit was Stargirl. This definitely falls into geek news. It's a DC TV show. It's on the CW in the States. It's also on the DC Universe app. This is probably the best DC TV show. And that's saying something. I mean, it's close between this and Black Lightning. They're both really, really well done consistently week in, week out. But, man, Stargirl, it's 4 episodes in. I basically blew through the first 3 because I was behind. And now I just anxiously await the next ones. They're taking classic characters from like the golden age, the Justice Society of America. So Starman and Dr. Fate and Dr. Midnight and Wildcat and all these great characters. And they're kind of reinventing them. But the thing I love about it is there's a fantastic family dynamic with the main family. Really, really good. And even the villains are getting really good backstories, and they're growing some of these villains that don't have a lot of back. Like the main villain, Icicle. If you go into DC Comics, Icicle does not have a really deep backstory. And they gave him one in one of these episodes. His motivation is pretty clear. And the acting is really well done. The effects are really well done. It's a home run when it comes to DC TV. So if you have not checked out Stargirl yet, because you were kind of like, nah, it looks okay. Trust me, it is fantastic. And the writing is I'm usually against it when they take classic characters and try to make them younger and hipper or whatever. But I know Stargirl has been in the comics, but they're kind of doing it with other members of the Justice Society, and it's working. So far, it is working big time. So I highly, highly, highly recommend Stargirl. I don't think enough people are talking about it, quite frankly, for how great it is. So if you are watching Stargirl and you're enjoying it, please tweet, Facebook, Instagram, talk about how great Stargirl is. I'm just a little worried it's not getting the love that it deserves. On to our off story of the week. Of course, a story where you read the headline just makes you say, oh, for fuck's sakes. And this one just, honestly, for fuck's sakes, on many levels. There's a 23-year-old guy in Virginia who was trying to build a bomb to attack hot cheerleaders. Okay, this one, like I said, on many levels, for fuck's sakes. Oh, for fuck's sakes. First off, why the fuck is this guy building a bomb? Like, come on. Secondly, hot cheerleaders, they've never done anything to anybody. I mean, yes, they've been the villains in many a teenage rom-com. Okay? And I'm sure some of those stereotypes of cheerleaders are true. I'm sure some of them are very annoying, very uppity, very, popular girls keeping the unpopular girl down, as we've seen in those rom-coms. But really, as a young boy growing up, cheerleaders were very helpful. They helped us transition from boy to man, even if on our own. So, you know what I'm saying? So why would you want to hurt the cheerleaders? You know, I mean, they're right up there with those Victoria's Secret angels. They've never hurt anybody. Yeah, they only want to bring joy to this world that we live in. So let the cheerleaders be the cheerleaders. The follow-up on this story, which I think is kind of hilarious, is his bomb didn't work. Well, it worked, just not the way he wanted to. It went off and he blew off his own hand. So if he was mad at hot cheerleaders before, he's going to be even more mad now because he's got nothing to release that pent up frustration now. He's handless and in jail. He ain't going to be happy. Offs. On to our geek news of the week. A lot of DC stuff. Marvel's been very, very quiet lately, where DC's been making a lot of announcements, or at least a lot of rumors flying around for DC. So we'll start with David Ayer, the director of the first Suicide Squad film. Of course, we know that Zack Snyder's version of Justice League is getting released, and we know that David Ayer had a very, very different cut of Suicide Squad, one that featured a lot more of Jared Leto's Joker and was a lot darker in tone than the final film. So, since the hashtag release the Snyder cut worked, there is now a hashtag release the Ayer cut, and rumors are suggesting that we could see it. There's been and if you're going like, well, why would Warner Brothers do this? First off, they have that new streaming service, HBO Max. That's the first thing. But secondly, there's been a massive shift in executives at Warner Brothers. And I think this new regime seems to be of the mindset of let the filmmakers make the films. And I think they're looking at the mistakes that were made with Justice League, bringing in Joss Whedon, getting him to reshoot, you know, according to Zack Snyder, it's about 2/3 of the film. With Suicide Squad, what happened wasn't so much reshoots, but it, if you remember the trailer for Suicide Squad that featured Bohemian Rhapsody, and it was all cut together really well, apparently the reaction to that trailer was so good that some of the executives at Warner Brothers went, oh shit, those people that cut together that 2-minute trailer, they should be the ones to cut together the 2-hour movie. Very different when you're cutting together a trailer to cutting together a movie. That trailer was phenomenal. There were some edits and cuts in that movie that really just made the story jump. So I think this new regime is sitting there going, we made some mistakes. We need to make it up to the fans of DC Comics and Warner Brothers films. And we have a platform now that we can release this stuff. Let's do it. So there's rumors that the Ayer cut is coming. And that'd be great because I want to see more Jared Leto's Joker, even just for that, because I thought the little bit that I got, the appetizer of his Joker, was really interesting. And I was into it. And anybody that shits on him for being a terrible Joker, there wasn't enough there to shit on him. There also wasn't enough there for me to say he was a great Joker or a good Joker. I found what I did get to see interesting, and I want to see more of it before I pass judgment. On to DC TV. Hartley Sawyer, who played the elongated man on the Flash TV show, he has been fired. Some tweets came up in his past that were very insensitive, and the producers of the show just didn't even think twice about it. They fired him from the show. Now, there's been no word yet on what their plan is going forward. A big chunk of the last season was Ralph and Sue, which is one of the great romances in DC Comics. And I figured that would have been continued into the next season. But now that the elongated man will be no more, unless they recast him, that storyline will probably be dropped altogether. I mean, that would be easy to just be like, hey, Ralph and Sue ran off together. That'd be the easy way to write him out of the show. I feel bad for the actress that was playing Sue because, you know, she obviously would have had a bigger role going forward, but we'll see how they work all that out. Back to Warner Brothers movies. Apparently talks have already started for the next Harley Quinn movie. We had Birds of Prey, which was fantastic, and shame on you if you didn't go see it. And Also, we have the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, which comes out next year. Apparently, Warner Brothers still big on the Harley Quinn train with Margot Robbie, and Margot still big on Harley Quinn. So they're talking about what the next one's going to be. To me, it would make sense if we did a Gotham City Sirens type thing. Continue the female theme with Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey. Be a good chance for us to get to see Poison Ivy. Maybe a Barbara Gordon Oracle in there. Lots of possibilities. You could even drop another appearance by the Huntress or Black Canary or Catwoman. Maybe we carry Catwoman over from the Batman. Lots of ways that could tie into the DCEU and yet still stand on its own. So kind of curious to see what the next Harley Quinn one will be. And speaking of people getting movies, the Joker did so well that DC's kind of sitting there going, maybe we can do a few of these other Batman villains in their own solo film. And the first one that they're talking about is Bane. I would dig this. We've had 2 live action portrayals of Bane. The first one, if you forgot about it, I don't blame you. It's in Batman and Robin. They basically turned him into a mindless Hulk. Pointless, destroys the character of Bane. The Bane that was in The Dark Knight Rises, much closer to the comic book Bane, but still not there. The comic book Bane is brilliant intellectually. And then, of course, he gets the Venom, which makes him, physically a monster. And it'd be nice to see that story. Now, again, much like the Joker, the Bane story is very, very dark. So they managed to pull it off with Joker, but nobody would be rooting for Bane. And that was the thing with the Joker movies. You're still not rooting for Joker, but they managed to tell an interesting story around it. So that would be the challenge with Bane. The Batman villain that I actually think could make a very sympathetic and heart-touching solo film is Mr. Freeze. He doesn't get his due. But you think of the backstory and the origin of Mr. Freeze is that he's committing these crimes to save his wife, who he has cryogenically frozen because she has this terrible disease, and he's trying to find a cure. That, to me, would be a very appealing movie based on the comic book. I would like to see Mr. Freeze get his kind of day in the sun, as it were. Not literally, because that would kill him. But you know what I mean. I think he would make a fantastic choice for a villain solo film that you could empathize with the main character. And that's, to me, is the key when you're making these movies. It's okay to empathize with Mr. Freeze at times. And I think that would work well. They did a poll on the most anticipated sequels of 2021, and Venom 2 right up at the top of the list, which I found a little surprising because the reaction to Venom 1 was lukewarm. I still haven't finished watching it. I got to do that. I got time here in these hotels. I might as well. I liked what I saw, but I didn't get very far into it. I think it's because Carnage is in the sequel, and that is one of the great Spider-Man/Venom villains is Carnage. And then the fact that you have Woody Harrelson playing Carnage, it adds a whole other level to it. So looking forward to that. It is going to be released in IMAX, which is pretty sweet. We got the new Bill and Ted trailer. It's only 1:30, but it kind of gives us the plot of the movie. Bill and Ted travel through time to try and find the song that unites humanity as a people. Kind of fitting for the world we're in right now, trying to unite. Maybe music is what could do that. So the trailer looked good, had a couple of laughs in it. I'm excited to see the new Bill and Ted. And switching over to just a little bit of Star Wars news, the director of the Obi-Wan TV show said, hey, listen, we are still rolling. Like, we're still moving forward with this project. It's still a go. Apparently, a rumor had come out that the Obi-Wan show was being backburnered or pushed to the side, and that is not the case at all. I don't know why anybody would think that Disney and Star Wars would not make the Obi-Wan show, especially since Ewan McGregor is on board. But yeah, it is still happening. And we still get more and more news about The Mandalorian Season 2, which is still coming in October. That has been confirmed by Jon Favreau. He came out and said, we're still on target for an October release, which is great. But we keep getting casting news and director news and all this kind of stuff. And apparently they brought in the director for the movie Extraction that's on Netflix, Sam Hargrave, and he was brought in strictly to take the action in season 2 of The Mandalorian to the next level. Now, when I read that initially, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then I started to think about the first season of The Mandalorian, and there were some badass action sequences in that movie, in the show. It felt like a movie. There were some great action sequences throughout that entire season. So when they start talking about taking the action of The Mandalorian to the next level, that makes my Star Wars Underoos tighten. Like, that gets me very, very excited. I've said before, I am a little worried that they're cramming a bit too much into this season with familiar characters, but bringing in this guy to help with the action, that's great. I still think it's going to be a great season. Again, still confirmed for October, which is awesome. Can't wait. And that will pretty much wrap it up for this week. Next week, I'll be coming to you once again from the road. Eventually, I will get home again. I hope my dog and cat remember who I am. My wife will. I worry about the animals forgetting me. But don't forget, you can always reach out to me, The Scotty Mars Show on Facebook and Instagram, at Scotty Mars on Twitter, and check out our website. It's ScottyMarsMedia.com. The podcast is there. Once we start rolling, I got some ideas for some videos and stuff. They're all going to be on the website. So it's kind of your one-stop Scotty shop. But everything is free, which is great. Unless I make t-shirts, which somebody asked me the other day if I had t-shirts. We're not there yet, but that could be coming. So feel free, reach out to me at any time. And don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends about the podcast. Let's keep spreading the word, as it were. And until we chat again, have a great week.